Okay. So regarding this insular fauna, as I told you, it is a study of animals or fauna of islands. Basically, if you look at the definition of an island, അത് മൗസ് ഒന്നും അനക്കിയില്ലെങ്കിൽ അത് ഓട്ടോമാറ്റിക്കായിട്ട് ഓഫായി പോകും. ഇങ്ങനെ ഞങ്ങളിവിടെ ഉണ്ടായിരിക്കണമെന്ന് പ്രൊജക്ട് തന്നെ എന്തോ ഒരു നിർബന്ധമുള്ള പോലെ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അത് ഓഫായി പോകും, എന്താണെന്നറിയാൻ പാടില്ല. So regarding the island fauna or insular fauna, basically what is an island? Simply you can find a definition. Islands are bits of land masses surrounded on all sides by water. So here you can see that a land area which are covered or surrounded all around by water is called by a island. And their fauna is called insular fauna, otherwise known by the name it's basically known by the name insular fauna. We cannot call island fauna, even though we can commonly say it is an island fauna. So insular fauna means fauna present in an island. So here you can say there are two different types of island. One is known by the name continental island, and second one is known by the name oceanic island. So we have to first understand what is the difference between this continental island as well as this oceanic island. Now in the case of a continental island, you can see that the island of Sri Lanka. The Sri Lanka is an island present very near to Indian land or Indian subcontinent. Now this is a very good example of a continental island. Here there are one important feature of a continental island is that they will be very near to a continent. Most of the time they will be situated some 200 or 300 kilometers far away from the nearby continent. Now the next one is that the fauna, the sea separating them. Here you can see that this is the sea separating Indian continent, Indian subcontinent and Sri Lanka. And here you can see the depth of this sea will be very shallow and as well as narrow. There are 2 points. Shallow means depth will be the depth will be very limited, which it won't be too deep. Second point is that it will be a narrow sea. Narrow sea means most of the time the distance between the island as well as the nearby mainland will be mostly in the range of 100 or 200 or 500 kilometer range. So that is it is a narrow sea. So that these are the two important points. Another point is that here you can see that the continental islands are those islands which at one time have been a part of large land mass. So if you look at the geological past, or if you take the geological history, once this Sri Lanka used to be attached or to be a part of Indian mainland. Now it is separated from Indian mainland by a sea, but still the depth of that sea is not too deep. So that is another peculiarity. So here you can see at one time it used to be a part of the large land mass, or in the case of Sri Lanka, once it used to be a part of Indian mainland, but which have lost their connection with the mainland. Now if we look at this, there is a series of small island here, mostly formed of rocks, and this stretch is known by the Park Strait. And once this Park Strait is fully above the water, and from this the India and Sri Lanka are covered by this land bridge. Through this land bridge, animals from India were able to reach Sri Lanka. So there are many animals in Sri Lanka. For example, elephant. Elephant is present in Sri Lanka. Then we can find leopard is present in Sri Lanka. But there are no tiger in Sri Lanka. In Kerala as well as in Tamil Nadu we can find tiger. Why there is no tiger in Sri Lanka? Because when tiger actually originated somewhere near Siberia. From Siberia, tiger reached Indian mainland. But what happened is that when tiger came to Indian mainland, this separation, this land bridge disappeared. and it became covered by water, so that tiger was no longer able to pass through this land bridge and reach Sri Lanka. That is why we can find leopard in Sri Lanka, elephants are present in Sri Lanka, but there is no tiger in Sri Lanka. So that is a significance of this land bridge. We will be discussing those points later. Here another point between coming regarding the continental island is that continental island will be always sitting in a continental shelf. So here this is a continent and this is the seashore, and now seashore is slowly going down or sloping down. So for a distance of around 250 kilometer, the sloping is very slow or very gradual, and after that there is a sudden sloping. So up to this point we call it by the name continental shelf. So for a kilometer of 200 or 250 kilometers from the seashore, we can find a very gradual gradual sloping of the seashore. Then we can, and this area where the depth of the sea is very limited is known by the name continental shelf. So most of the time this continental shelf is an importance of continental shelf is that the importance of continental shelf is that these continental islands are situated in the continental shelf. So there are 2-3 points is that one of the important definition and important point regarding the continental islands are those islands which are situated or located in the continental shelf, and because of that the sea separating the continental island from the nearby continent will be narrow as well as shallow. So there are narrow sea as well as shallow sea. The depth will be there. After the continental island, you can see that the depth is suddenly increasing. So here it is a sudden. If the depth is going too deep, then you can see that there is an area called continental slope, and after that then it comes the abyssal plain. Abyssal plain simply means deep sea plain, or the bottom of the deep sea is known by the name abyssal plain. And sometimes in the abyssal plain there are small mountain like structures which we call by the name continental rise. So this is regarding the cross section of a continental shelf from the seashore. So those islands which are situated in this continental shelf is known by the name continental island. So continental islands are bodies of land that lie on the continental shelf of a continent. So that is an important point. Second is that lies close to the continent. Then another thing is that resemble each other geologically. That if you examine the rock structure as well as the soil structure of Sri Lankan island as well as Indian mainland, we can see a lot of similarity between Indian mainland as well as Sri Lanka in terms of the soil as well as rock structure. So that is the geological similarity between continental island as well as a nearby mainland. Then another peculiarity is that there is similarity in fauna or similarity in the type and nature of animals. So if you go to Sri Lanka, you can say Sri Lanka is almost like Kerala. I have visited Sri Lanka once. It's like visiting another part of Kerala. Sri Lanka almost looks like Kerala. And the terrain is like that. There are a lot of trees which are common to Kerala. And the animals of Sri Lanka are somewhat also similar. And because I am studying and researching on spider. The spider diversity of Kerala and spider diversity of Sri Lanka are somewhat similar. So there is a lot of similarity between the continental island and the nearby continent in terms of the fauna, and there is higher level of faunal similarity. Then another peculiarity is a lack of competition. Lack of competition sometimes result in occurrence of species which have become extinct in the mainland. For example, if you take the Sri Lankan elephant, the Sri Lankan elephant have no tusk. It is a tuskless elephant. Just like the female elephant, the Sri Lankan elephant have no tusk. So that is actually genetic modification. Maybe once a tuskless male elephant are also present in Indian mainland, but when only a few animal or elephant members may have reached Sri Lanka, and most of them may be tuskless. So because of that, because of the genetic evolution, now only tuskless female elephants are present in Sri Lanka. So there is a peculiarity. There is those kind of animals which may be extinct or disappeared from the mainland, may be surviving in a island because of lack of competition and lack of enemies. So presence of lack of competition and lack of enemies can result in occurrence of some species which may have disappeared in the mainland. Now these are the important continental islands of the world. For your practicals also, there is a question: identify the important continental islands of the world. Now he can find Borneo and Java. Borneo is a part of Malaysia, and Java is also a part of Indonesia. Sumatra is the main island of Indonesia. Sakhalin is also present in Indonesia. Then Taiwan is very near to China. Then Hainan island also is near to China. Then you can find New Guinea. New Guinea is located between Indonesia and Australia. Then Tasmania is an island south of Australia. It is also a part of Australia. Then Kangaroo Island is also a part of Australia. Then we have Great Britain and Ireland and Sicily, which are the continental islands that you can see in the east of Europe. Then coming to the Northern America, we can find Greenland. Greenland is very near to the Canada, but it is a snow-covered island, but it is under the control of Dutch, and it is not Dutch, under the control of Denmark. Then we have an island called Newfoundland. If you look at a map and you see the Canada, on the northern portion of Canada, you can find a large island known by the Newfoundland. Then Long Island and Sable Island. These are also islands present on the northern side of North America. So these are the different islands of continental islands of the world. Then you can find Madagascar. Madagascar is also a continental island. Then Sri Lanka is a continental island. Then there are a lot of other islands also present there. These are some of the most well-known continental islands of the world. Then this is the New Zealand. New Zealand is not a continental island because New Zealand is separated some 1,000 kilometers away by 1,000 kilometers away from Australia, and the sea is also very deep. And most of the time, continental island will be having a very shallow sea, and that they should be also on the same continental shelf. So that is why New Zealand is not considered as a continental island, it is an oceanic island. Now coming to the second group is known by the name oceanic island. These are islands, the oceanic islands are ones that do not sit on the continental shelf. Earlier I have discussed what is a continental shelf. This is known as a continental shelf. If you understand what is a continental shelf, it is easy for you to explain the difference between a continental shelf and an oceanic island. Continental islands are those islands which are located on the continental shelf. Oceanic islands are those islands which do not sit on the continental shelf and are located very far away from the nearby land or a continent. And the sea between an oceanic island and the nearby continent will be also very deep. it's separated by a deep sea. In the case of continental island, it is separated by a shallow sea. And most of the continental islands are volcanic in origin. When I was discussing about the plate tectonics and origin of continent, I saw how plates are diverging from each other. When two plates are moving away from each other, this is two plates, when they are slightly moving away from each other, there will be a gap. Through that gap, volcanic magma will be coming out. And that process will be resulting in the formation of volcanic islands. And many of the oceanic islands that we are seeing today have formed by this process of plate divergence. So plate divergence sometimes result in the formation of volcanic island. There are thousands of volcanic islands on this earth, and most of these islands are mostly under the control of Western nations, or they may be colonies of European countries like Britain, France, Germany, or Netherlands, or Spain. Now here you can find there is one oceanic island, very famous one, that is situated very far from the western border of Africa. That island is known by the name Saint Helena. It is presently under the control of UK. It's a very famous island. Do you know why it is famous? What is the reason for the popularity, or why Saint Helena is known? You might have heard about Napoleon Bonaparte, and he was a military ruler of France. And during the French-British war between UK and France, this Napoleon was captured, and Napoleon was then deported, or he was taken to this remote island. And UK people didn't kill, British people didn't kill him, because he was a very furious, they also respected him. But they want to make sure that Napoleon is not causing any problem for Britain again. And Napoleon was allowed to live in this Saint Helena for the rest of his life. It was a palace, but Napoleon was house arrested, or he was living in that. That is why Saint Helena is famous. So very remote place, very far away from the nearby continent, some more than 1,000 or 2,000 kilometers away. So that is the importance of Saint Helena. Here you can see that how this oceanic islands are sometimes forming. So when volcanic eruptions are taking place like this, there will be mountains on the bottom of the sea. Sometimes volcanic eruptions result in the release of lot of molten magma, and sometimes these islands will be coming above the sea. When these islands are coming above the sea, that becomes an oceanic island. So this is how oceanic islands are formed. Here you can find the group of coral islands. Have you ever gone to Lakshadweep? You know, Marriott is coming from Lakshadweep. Marriott, no. Then I have visited Maldives. And these Maldives and Lakshadweep are coral islands. And the importance of coral islands is that these islands are actually formed by deposition of the coral remains. Now, corals are a group of colonial organisms. They multiply in very large number, and when they are dying, their body will be having a coral shell, and this coral shell is basically calcium carbonate. So by the deposition of this calcium carbonate remains of the coral for thousands or millions of years, slowly a mountain will be forming there, and that's when a mountain, and that mountain will be slowly becoming an island. So that is how the formation of coral islands have taken place. Now, here you can, if you ever go to a coral island, you can see that the sea around the coral island are usually green in color. It's a very shallow sea, and it can mostly very clear and also very transparent also. But the water, it is due to the reflection. It is due to the internal reflection of the water. The sea will be mostly green in color around it. So these are also oceanic islands. So we have this Maldives island, is an oceanic island. Lakshadweep is also an oceanic island. Then here also this is another oceanic island known by name Azores. Azores is very far from African continent. It's also a small island. But most of the, if you look at the map, you can see that these islands are actually colonized by these Western countries for their military purposes. Even in the present century, these islands are very important for the most of the Western countries, because they can house their, they can keep their military there in the event of a military conflict. They can very easily transport or send military forces from there. For example, this after Maldives, there is an island called Diego Garcia. Have you heard about Diego Garcia? Now it is an island some 1,500 kilometers from Kanyakumari. And this island was once part of the, some people were living there. Britain occupied that, and it was a British colony for a long time. Then Britain made an agreement with the USA. Now it is under the control of this America, and America is taking out most of the major military operation. For example, military operation in Afghanistan, Iraq. The America has a major base in this Diego Garcia. So it's a very secret island. Nobody will be allowed to enter that. And there are theories that this now Malaysian Airlines, actually this Malaysian airline has been hit by the American missile, and somehow this Malaysian airline, the remains of maybe around this island. So there are a lot of theories like that, but it's a very secret island. And that is also Diego Garcia, and that is that island is known by Diego Garcia. Now, importance of oceanic island is that if you look at the animal fauna of oceanic island, there is a lot of differences or dissimilarities between animals of oceanic island and nearby continental, and they differ in climate. So when a land is very far from the nearby area, 1,000 or 2,000 kilometers, there will not be any similarity in climate. So climate will be completely different than vegetation. Vegetation and fauna, both will be also completely different. So in the case of continental island, we are finding a lot of similarity. That similarity may not be present in the case of this continental island. That is a difference. Then carnivores are absent. So Marietta may be knowing what are the bigger animals. I think bat is present. In Lakshadweep, bats are present. Then rats may be present. Then small frogs are present. These are the major animals. Marietta വേറെ എന്തെങ്കിലും കണ്ടിട്ടുണ്ടോ? ഫ്രോഗ് ഉണ്ടല്ലേ? ഫ്രോഗ് ഇല്ലേ ലക്ഷദ്വീപില്? ഇല്ല. ഫ്രോഗിനെ കണ്ടിട്ടില്ല. റാറ്റ് ഇല്ലേ? എലിയില്ലേ? പിന്നെ ബാറ്റ് ഉണ്ട്. ബാറ്റ് ഇല്ലേ? വവ്വാല് ഉണ്ട്. അത് രണ്ടുമല്ല, വേറെ ഏതെങ്കിലും ബിഗർ മാമൽ ഉണ്ടോ അവിടെ? ഓന്തുണ്ടോ? ഓന്ത് ഇല്ല. പിന്നെ എന്താ? അത്രേ ഉള്ളൂ. ഇതാണ് ഓഷ്യാനിക് ഐലൻഡ്സിന്റെ ഒരു പൊതുവെയുള്ള. So going to the oceanic islands, there are very few animals in oceanic islands. Why these animals are not present in the? So if an animal like a dog or cat has to reach Lakshadweep or Maldives, they have to cross an ocean. That is why most of these animals are unable to cross the ocean, and that is why bigger animals cannot reach there. For example, but bats are there. Bat is a flying animal. So sometimes some bats are able to cross long distances over the sea, and that is why bats are usually present, and rats may be present. And rats may be mostly introduced by the ships, because in ancient times ships are mainly used for transportation. Even now the ships are mainly used. So when a ship is coming to Kochi or coming to Trivandrum or Kozhikode and going back to Lakshadweep, rats will be entering into that ship. And when the ship is again, when ship is then going to Lakshadweep, when it is when it is lying in the Lakshadweep islands, rats will be moving out. So that is why rats are present in almost all the islands. So rats have a very high multiplication rate. If one rat is there, within a month of 1 year or 2 years, thousands of rats will be there. So another peculiarity is that development of huge size. You might have heard about this Galapagos tortoise. Then other is iguana. Both are very giant animal. One person can sit on the body of this tortoise, this Galapagos tortoise. This is also very giant. This is actually similar to our garden lizard. They are also very giant. The reason is that there is no competition. Because of the lack of competition and because of the lack of enemies, these animals can grow without any kind of checking or any kind of predatory control. That is the reason why we are finding very giant animals in most of the oceanic islands. Because of the lack of competition, and other reason is that no enemies, no predators are there. So they can grow uncontrolled. So that is why there are theories that when there is something, even Lamarck also has such a theory, that when nothing is there to control, the animal gradually increase in size. That kind of theories are also there. So development of huge size is noticed in giant lizards and tortoises of oceanic islands. Then another peculiarity is that if you look at the animals of oceanic island, that is basically chance assemblage. Chance assemblage means animals coming from different parts of. For example, you take Lakshadweep or Maldives, mostly some very few animals are there. Most of the animals are either rat. Rat might have reached through ship. Then we can find bat, that is another animal. Then maybe regarding the reptiles also, I don't see any snakes are there. I think in Maldives when I was teaching there as a teacher, if there is one snake is there, it's a non-poisonous snake. And what students there do is that they collect the snake and put it in a bottle and bring it to the classroom. Because they know that most of the Indian teachers are afraid of snakes. And when the class is going on, they will take the bottle and release the snake. So this is how they are doing in Maldives. It's only one poisonous snake. But it is a no. So very few species of snakes are also there. So going to the animal fauna of oceanic islands, there very few animals are there. The reason is that if an animal, for example, if an amphibian, for an amphibian to reach Lakshadweep, it needs fresh water. How can it cross a sea water and reach Maldives? It is impossible. That is why there are no frogs or amphibians in Lakshadweep. Then fauna is poor in basic group. Basic group means now if you might have studied about chordata. Under chordata you are first studying about the fishes or fishes. Then you are studying about amphibians. Then you are studying about reptiles. Then about birds and mammals. These 5 groups are the basic group. So if we look at the fauna of oceanic island, these 5 groups of animals are very poorly represented because they need some kind of land means or other kinds of means to reach there. But in these smaller animals like insects, they can easily reach there. Even by wind action they can reach there. So these are some of the famous oceanic islands: Azores, Bermuda, Galapagos Island and St. Helena. Then we have one more island which is the Galapagos Island. I think we will take Galapagos Island in our next class because regarding Galapagos Island we have to explain little more. Now I am stopping here because I want to give you